mean, we all love it. Sometimes we hate to admit that we love it, but hey, we all need food one way or the other. And it's World Food Day. So what better point to speak about World Food Day than on a breakfast show? And this morning, we're getting right into that conversation. As I said earlier on, we all love to love food, particularly because it ensures sustenance. It fuels what we want to do. Either you're working, you're schooling, you're doing business, you need food. But what is this celebration all about this time around, and how does it affect you and I? Well, we have joining us on the show two gentlemen. Mr. Michael Sumbola is a food system activist and founder. Lagos Food Bank is right here with us in our Lagos studio, as well as a commissioner for agriculture, Kaduna State, Mr. Murtala Dabo, joins us via Zoom. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm so delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
I don't know, is it appropriate to say Happy World Food Day?
Oh, yes. In everything, there's still cause for celebration. And yeah, we have to keep the hope alive.
Fantastic.
Very well.
But let's get right into it.
Oh, yes.
First, I'm curious, food system activist. So first I'm hearing that you're a food system activist, but maybe you can speak to that, when you responded to my question. But I want us to get to the heart of this. The world is commemorating Food Day, and the theme is that food is a human right to food. So we heard about right to life, right to, assemble, freedom of speech and all of that. But I'm sure a lot of people never really thought that food is actually a human right, because it's not something that you can just readily pick. You have to pay for it, you have to work for it, particularly now that food is expensive. So what is the thinking first behind the theme, food is a human right? Oh,
yes, so very good question. The thing is that for, as far as food is concerned, it's one of the most basic requirements to live, to be alive, and without food, we are of course can't do anything. Our system can't function. So the most important thing we should bear in mind in this regard is that to what extent do we have access to this food, right? In as much as we don't expect to pick it up free of charge, right? But there should be an enabling environment for that access to the food, right? So our legal framework, of course, doesn't make this a legal right. Of course, it's, by our constitution, it's there, but it's not justiciable. But we have right to life, section 33 of our constitution, right? And how can you be alive without having access to what will keep you alive? So, and if you want to look at the intentionality of other countries who have also had challenges with food insecurity in the past, like countries like India, Brazil, Bolivia, several countries, they've become so intentional about how do they want to make a statement about their intention around making food accessible to people. So instead of it being a moral obligation or what is in the constitution that is not justiciable, they took steps to amend their constitution, right, to make food a right, a human right. Like people have rights to this, like you can actually enforce such rights. And we start with India. Just recently, of course, they amended their laws, and they of course legislated on National Food Security Act that made food accessible to people, at least more than 2/3 of their people, I think, in terms of grains and I can mention several other countries. Mexico, it's in their laws, their legal, as against just signing on to some international treaties that, of course, that we are not able to ratify back home. But the point I'm trying to make here is that how we want to show intentionality that we also have an obligation as a government is, first of all, right, let us take that step, that we're also part of this, right? Hold us accountable. When you are held accountable, you also want to take action. But when you know that whatever it is, like, people might not be able to hold you to it, right? It doesn't also make you stand on your toes to make this,
interesting point there. And let me go to Mr. Dabo, because he is in government, right? And government is meant to ensure that the rights of people are protected, whether it's right to life, right to food, or otherwise. So, Mr. Dabo, going by the, the statistics of, poverty, those who are not able to afford, a basic meal, those who are hungry in the country, then you begin to wonder, just how much of this right is being trampled upon right now? There is a lot of human rights violation ongoing. So I want you to speak from the side of government, at least your government. Do you recognize food as a human right?
Well, let me start by congratulating everyone. I would say Happy World Food Day. From the theme of today's World Food Day, it's a right to food and better future. And I will tell you that our government in Kaduna has been deliberate right from the get-go. One of the 8 pillars sustained agenda of Governor Obatani's government is agriculture. And what is it meant to achieve? Food security, of course. Without food security, there won't be any, you know what, you just said it. Without food, you can't even live. You won't be alive. So it's a deliberate policy of government to see that it supports the productivity of food. That is the agricultural development. Kaduna and Nigeria, as you know, is a country of over 200 million people. So it's very key that we get food sufficiency. It's a very, very, very key thing. And good enough, Kaduna, being an agrarian state, agriculture contributes 43% to the state's GDP. And we're the leading producers of maize, ginger, and tomatoes. So as a policy, the governor just signed on agricultural development and nutrition strategy. It's not even enough for us to have enough food, but it has to be nutritious. So that it is the end thing now. You all are aware of the hunger. The UN Secretary General just said it, that over 733 million people are facing hunger today as a result of a lot of calamities, wars, some of them natural disasters like climate change and all that. Some of the man-made disasters are like the Gaza and the Sudan crisis. So it is a key thing that we really get deliberate in addressing the food security issue. We all know of the flood that has, that we are now suffering in the country. We've had very good rains, but then the flood is now coming to eat up the productivity that we have produced. So I will tell you, as a government, we are deliberate. We are supporting the farmers to improve productivity. It's only then we'll have enough food to feed. The smallholder farmers that are largely considered our farmers and in the state, the government, we've supported them with quality seeds. Over 69,000 of them were provided with good seeds, mechanization, in order to improve productivity. We've given them power tillers. We're working on mechanization, and it's not enough for them to even produce the food. Preservation is another thing. For silage losses that we suffer, sometimes they may produce so much food, but as a result of lack of access roads, a lot of it gets wasted. The government is deliberate in building a lot of rural roads that links farmers to the markets, and then warehousing too. As a state
Mr. Dabo, let me come in there now.
Yeah.
So, pardon me if I'm coming there now. If you're putting in all of these efforts, might I ask if Kaduna is food secure? And food secure being, can Kaduna afford to feed itself for the next 5 years without importation of food, either from neighboring countries in the north or even from neighboring states? Can you confidently say that Kaduna State is food secure?
I will tell you confidently that Kaduna State is food secure because we produce close to 20% of the maize production of this country right now. And maize is a staple, both in animal feed and the normal food and most of the processing companies. Soybeans were number 2. So to say we will be food secure for 5 years is what I cannot commit to. But what I know is that we're deliberately working on ramping up production. We have over 4 million hectares of land and arable. 2.9 million of it is under cultivation, and we're ramping up, attracting private sector, large-scale farmers to come in so that we produce a lot more for the country. typically, Harvest Plus, they have been supporting a lot of production, like, okay, the nutrition security that I was talking about. We need to get biofortified seeds such that you don't only need to have enough food, but it should be nutritious. So it's another way of fighting malnutrition. We're suffering from stunted growth of our children, malnutrition of even the lactating mothers and the children themselves. So I tell you, go to the grains market in Iwa, go to Saminaka, go to rice in Kauru, soybeans in Kaura. Everywhere, I tell you, right now harvest season is coming. And as I was saying, we're working on warehousing because it's not enough for you to just produce. You need to keep it safe. You need to preserve it so that your farmers will have good prices for their produce.
All right.
So
we may just
in this, we're partnering with agro-logistics company to manage our warehouses so that we'll provide this, which will help. Okay.
So we may just need to fact check a lot of the things that you have said because
you are talking.
Yes, pardon me. May I come in there now? We may just need to fact check some of the things that you have said as far as Kaduna being insecure, and that would go to the challenge of food preservation. How many silos are there for farmers to access in Kaduna State, such that there's food security beyond this time to many years down the line. Also, affordability is another aspect of the food security question that I have posed to you. But let me come to the studio now to you, sir. The business magnate claimed just days ago, a few weeks ago, that Nigeria is one of the food insecure countries of the world. And, some diligent pressmen have gone to fact check to find out that indeed Nigeria is number 2 on the list of countries, 59 countries that are food insecure. I wonder if we have any business in the country being food insecure, considering arable land. If you drop something on the ground in the country, before you know it, it grows. So what are we not doing right that we find ourselves on the list of these countries that are food insecure?
Basically, and I must say, without prejudice to the effort of the government thus far in ensuring that we have a more food secure country, the point is, we all know this, the long-term neglect of agriculture as a major, as basically just that neglect. And of course, now coming back to it, you see the Buhari administration, of course, did a whole lot in reviving agriculture. We know that massive investment in agriculture, of course, would, for any country, of course, would always guarantee, food security for any nation. Typically, we have no business being food insecure. We have all the resources. We have arable land. We have, a whole lot like that can make us, and even several other natural resources that can make us food secure. But the point is that it's the intentionality, like I said, around ensuring that this is, see, the true wealth of every nation, to my mind, is in the stomach of its people. And you see, the more we prioritize agriculture, the more we prioritize social safety net programs that actually carry the most vulnerable along, goes a long way. And it is now that we are beginning to now see that the impact is becoming so obvious, like this level of food insecurity we are now seeing, while some other countries like Brazil is like the size of Nigeria, and they've been intentional about some of these things. Like, let's play our part, let's see what we can do. If we make this step in making this issue of food security a legal issue, like it's something that we can be held accountable for, we'll go all the way to but if we won't be, we'll just pay lip service to it, to like a more like something that we are not really so so intentional about. Like I said, the government is doing a whole lot. We all have our roles to play. The subnationals also have their roles to play in ensuring that their states become more food secure. Kudos to the Lagos state government in what they are doing as well in ensuring food security, the ONJECO, and several other initiatives the Lagos state government has as well. If other states like this are more intentional, Lagos being the fact that it's not such an agrarian, a state like that, produces just about 3% or 4% of its food need, right? But the fact that at least they are at the forefront of ensuring that there's food security goes a long way. And more so, we just have to be more intentional. But this step ought to have been taken long before now, but it's not too late, right? It's that level of intentionality that we need, and still continuous investment in agriculture. The Anchor Borrowers Program, is currently on hold, probably not effective as it was. It might probably be revisited, and several other initiatives. And also, we also need to hold ourselves accountable as well. We individuals, the farmers, and corruption as well. A whole lot. The government might have good intentions, but trickling it down and implementing it, and you realize that doesn't get to the grassroots of people that need it. But we all have that role to play, and that's why on our own part as an organization, we are looking at the most vulnerable population, and we are saying, what can we do in our own respect as a citizen? Like, not saying the government should do everything, right? What can we do to carry our most vulnerable along? And we targeted very senior citizens and all of that, and we say, you know what, food banks work in other climes as a social safety net program, right? Let us do something in that regard, and that's what we're doing.
It's quite interesting, that model, and I think you're trying to point to the fact that government has its role to play, which will be major on, or at least will major on today, because government sets the tone, but then other players can come in to sort of fill in the blanks of the spaces of sorts. So, but I want us to speak to the realities on ground right now, and how well we're able to get out of it, and how soon enough. We were just talking about the price of eggs, for example, and what it's projected to be. So that's meant to be at least one of the basic sources of protein. Right? Animal protein is quite expensive, so people would try to augment with egg, try to eat beans as well, and get some protein from it. I know there's been a controversy around how much protein is in beans, but there's protein in it nonetheless. So these sources of protein are expensive. Beans is so expensive right now, you wonder what is going on. So we have a present challenge. We can talk about how food is a human right and all of that, but people will still want to go to market and test that. So clearly, that is where we're at right now. And I want us to begin to talk about solutions. For example, I was looking through the activities of the Ministry of Agriculture, particularly for this day and in the past few months. And some will say they are not feeling the effect of the agriculture ministry. That is like the most important ministry. Food is a political issue. If there's anything that should get a lot of attention, it is food. Because once you've sorted the issue of food, you are sure that your citizens at least will be happy with you. So what has been missing for you in the government's activities at trying to reduce the price of food? Because we've been at this for a while right now. So what is that one thing that I'll go to Mr. Dabo quickly?
You see, when it comes to reduction of the price of food, I would say that it's something that I wouldn't like. How do I put this now? There are several players, there are several activities, there are several factors that are responsible for for all of this. A lot of several economic issues, and we are looking at traders, farmers who probably have used high cost of feeds, animal feeds, and the rest of it to maybe put their chickens together and everything, and then trickles down to the price of eggs, but a lot of factors are responsible for high cost of living, high cost of food inflation, and the rest of it, right? In terms of what is missing, it's a multi-dimensional issues, like I said, and I would say the government is trying their best, but issues of security are to be addressed, where farmers pay ransom to access, harvest or cultivate their farms. Farmers being killed. A lot of factors are responsible for this, right? And if we have more if there's enough food, the prices will crash, right? And that is what the government is also doing, to, of course, remove the whole importation duties and everything. And some of these things might begin. I don't want to sit here and hold brief for the government because I'm not in the government. I'm private sector, I'm non-profit and the rest of it, right? But the most important thing I think we should bear in mind here is that just like the World Bank leader, said just a few days ago, like, what we are doing currently might not sit well with a lot of people. Like, it's what the government is doing, sorry, might not sit well with a lot of people. But if we stay put on them, we will see results, right, in the next few years.
Interesting.
Right, but not many people want to experience
that statement came across to a lot of people as, what, are we going to endure this for that long? And that's why it's important for people to be able to see that government is actually working and it's yielding results. Not you're working, and they're not seeing results. Obviously, they'll say what you're doing is not working, so change the formula. So let me go to Mr. Dabo, because Kaduna plays a pivotal role when it comes to agriculture in the country. For example, Kaduna is the biggest producer of maize in the country, and that is important when it comes to poultry. In fact, the major reason for the high price of eggs is the fact that the feeds are expensive. And I've heard poultry farmers saying, we need this maize one way or the other. If you're going to import it, bring it in. If we're going to get it from somewhere, but just get us the maize. So what exactly is going on in Kaduna State with maize production that we're not able to supply our poultry farmers well enough so the price of eggs can come down?
Well, the thing is, we have to support productivity, and majority of our farmers are smallholder farmers. And you'll see the massive support from the state government this year. 15,000 metric tons of fertilizer, giving more access to the input. Cost of input is prohibitive. A bag of fertilizer now goes for over 40,000, 43, sometimes even up to 46,000. So the government was so deliberate this year that we have distributed 500 trailers of fertilizer. 120,000 of our smallholder farmers benefited from 2 bags each. So this is meant to what? Ramp up production. And harvest is beginning already. And I can assure you, it's going to improve greatly. And provided there is supply into the market, prices will come down. And the fact that we subsidize inputs, we've given them power tillers, a lot of this for mechanization. We've given them improved seeds. We've given them fertilizer free. All this is meant to bring down the cost of production. And ultimately, I believe we're beginning to see the harvest. In the next 1 month, when we're fully into it, prices will come down definitely. And even in our budget for this year, that's what we call,
Okay, we're hoping to get what you call in your budget this year, but we'll reconnect.
Reserve. All
right, Mr. Dabo, pardon me.
We'll be releasing it into the market.
Just a moment. We lost that bit. What you were talking about the budget of your state. There's something you call, and then the connection just went off. So if you could just repeat that bit.
It's like a provision we make, like grains buffer stock. So what we do is on harvest now, we mop up, we buy a large quantity to keep, such that as we move down the year, when the supply is drying up, the government will be gradually releasing it to the market to moderate prices. And I think this will also is a good strategy to address food security issue. And you said, you spoke of poultry. You are aware that Olam is in Kaduna, and the hatchery that provides all of the northern states with day-old chicks and feeds. If you go to the factory site, you'll be shocked at the number of trailers of maize that comes every day from our villages. So productivity is improving greatly because the government is deliberately supporting farmers with inputs. Once they have access to these expensive inputs, it will bring down the production cost, and ultimately prices too will be moderated. And I think it's something that we are on the right track on.
Commissioner, I was talking earlier about affordability, which is a component of food security. And the report released by the NBS just this month states that cost of a healthy diet now is 1,200 Naira plus. And, as you go further down in the country, it may reduce just by a very minute and insignificant percentage. To what extent can, the Kaduna state government guarantee that there is, the opportunity for particularly the young ones who need, a balanced diet, have food affordability, are able to afford a nutritious diet in public schools especially?
Yes, I will tell you this confidently that in the next 1-2 months, you see prices will come down because the production was quite huge this year. So the support came handy. And the federal government was recommended for the support it gave all states by way of fertilizers that are free. So it at least subsidized the input to some level. And that must be sustained. And I will also tell you that, down the year when prices go up, and then you spoke of nutrition, Kaduna, we're housing more than about 50% of the seed companies in Nigeria. So the biofortified seeds are being gotten mostly from Kaduna. It's Kaduna farmers that are doing it for Harvest Plus. So these are partners that are working on the food systems in the country. Agra, all the partners too are supporting. And I believe we're on the right track by supporting these farmers with mechanization. And another area is, our over-reliance on rain-fed agriculture. And, it is key that we ramp up our irrigation facilities such that we'll be doing all year-round farming. Because as we have more supplies into the market, prices will definitely moderate.
Well,
so we're working very aggressively.
Just quickly,
irrigation infrastructure.
Just to inform you that in spite of what you say about you having a lot of maize supply, the price of a crate of egg is still 5,000 plus in Kaduna State.
Actually, 6,000 naira now. Yeah.
So, has that really changed much? Even in Kaduna, talk more of areas outside Kaduna.
I will challenge you. What is a bag of maize was going for as high as 100,000 2 months ago. But now, the millers are getting it at even 50,000 because new maize is coming in.
So, Mr. Dabo, the point here is this: people buy eggs. People do not buy the maize. That is for those who rear the chickens and then lay the eggs to sell. People, that's the end user, still buys a crate of egg for 5,000 plus, almost 6,000 in Kaduna. I'm just trying to say that these policies are not yielding results. Instead of the prices going down, they are going up. That's the point I'm trying to make. Bukola, I know you want to comment.
I want to assure you that these prices will moderate. I attended the World Egg Day last week, and I challenged the feed millers that look, you complain of cost of inputs, as in the raw materials. Maize is now coming out at a much cheaper price. Why are you not reducing prices? They increased the prices of the feed almost per week basis for a very long time. Now that the raw materials are coming at a much cheaper rate, it should reflect in the cost. Well, perhaps the poultry farmers, when the cost of feed comes down, eggs too should come down. What we need to do is to really ramp up production.
And you've answered it yourself, perhaps it also speaks to the measure of production of maize. We're talking about feeding more than 200 million people, yes, not just farmers in Kaduna. And, that also goes to what measure of farming is taking place in Kaduna. Is it activity or productivity, because of the challenge of insecurity as well? But if we have time, we'll explore that. Let's quickly make progress and talk about the approach itself. Some have said, look, in a country where there is a Land Use Act and it's the subnationals that are in charge of the land, why do you have a federal Ministry of Agriculture superintending over agriculture? So is that also a challenge? Should the resources, the majority of the resources deployed to the Ministry of Agriculture, go down to the states such that there can be increased productivity? Or do states have no excuse at all not to be sufficient in food production such that exportation can be done throughout the country rather than outside the country?
In terms of resource allocation to the Ministry of Agriculture and how it probably trickles down to the states. I believe that each subnational should take responsibility for the food security of their states, and be at the forefront of this. In as much as collaboration is still required for there are every state have their strengths and their weakness in terms of food production, but as far as the resource is concerned, like how, what is allocated to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and that of the states, I might not be able to say much about that because I really don't know much. But what I know is that if each state become more intentional about what they can do to make their own state more food secure, and also borrow from the ideas of what other states are doing.
Just basically learn from others.
Learn from other states. Okay. There would be some form of improvement.
Fantastic.
Rather than looking at the center.
So, quick one. How much is the price? How much is the crate of egg rather at the food bank? Is it 6,000 as well?
So I think there's a misconception.
Tell us about it quickly. We have 30 seconds to go.
The food bank is a non-profit and it's private driven, and it provides food to vulnerable populations free of charge. Free of charge. We don't sell. It's a model I think we might want to explore some other day or some other time. But it is like a social safety net, non-profit NGO that just caters to the food needs of people, training them on how to feed themselves, and also providing temporary relief for them.
Interesting. Basically. He said for the vulnerable people. So salary earners,
no, they
are not
vulnerable.
You're not sure. But it's great to hear that. I think it would be good to have this replicated across board.
Yes,
and then see funding as well, because there are well-meaning people who just want to be a part of it. They are maybe not able to give money to people individually, but they can support. So I think it's a good time to show compassion as we started off on the show this morning. Mr. Michael Sumbola, food system activist and founder of Lagos Food Bank. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
As well as Mr. Murtala Dabo, Commissioner for Agriculture, Kaduna State. Well, set to be the food hub of Nigeria. Thank you as well, and wish you the very best.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So we're keeping our eyes on other states, ensuring that we will do the right thing when it comes to agriculture and food, because food is a human right. But we'll go to break now. When we return, I will talk about the workforce. After we've talked about the food, let's talk about the productivity. That's in a moment. Stay with us.